Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast. And today we've got another exciting, energetic, amazing guest today. So just can't wait to introduce her. This is 19-year-old Haley Glass, who is a second-degree black belt in Taek-Kwon-Do, member of the Team Paul Mitchell Martial Arts, Century Martial Arts, and Century Martial Arts ambassador. Haley has been training in the martial arts for over 15 years and currently holds multiple world and international world championship titles in numerous leagues such as NASKA, ISKA, WKC, and WAKO. Haley has been performing, acting, and doing stunts since her early childhood. She was a contestant in America's Got Talent and made it to judges round, being able to achieve top 50 out of tens of thousands of competitors. Soon after that, at the age of 13, she landed her first major role as a mutant kid and stunt performer in Wolverines' Logan. Presently, she is a senior at the University of Florida studying sports medicine and is a featured performer on Intense Maximum Performance on the world's largest cruise ship in the world, Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas. She is passionate about being a testament to show that anything is possible through consistency and dedication, as well as encouraging the next generation of martial artists to follow their passions wherever they may lie. Haley, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is going to be great. We had Mr. Rappold, Chris Rappold, on the show. One of your coaches, and with the Team Paul Mitchell Martial Arts, and so excited to start highlighting some of the competitors on the team. So I think that you're the first one that I get to bring on the show. And I know we got Alex coming up in about a month from now. So super cool. I am really excited to just kind of highlight, martial artists that are doing great things. Not only on the tournament circuit, but, just in their lives. And you're very inspiring to a lot of students. I know that I told you I have a student, Mr. Anthony Perez. Anthony, if you're watching, I'm giving you a shout out. And if you want to come on the show and ask Haley a question, get on here. But he texted me, he goes, "You're going to have Haley Glass on the show?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's going to be super cool." He's like, "I can't wait to watch it." So I just think that's super cool. And as a 19-year-old, you've done a lot of things in your life already. I mean, just reading your bio, I'm amazed. So I'd love to talk all about it. So why don't you get us started and just kind of talk a little bit about your childhood and how you got involved in martial arts. It looks like it almost 4 years old. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I was raised by a single mom. So my mom worked quite a bit. And there was times where I would be in an after school program that kind of was connected to my school, and I'd be there for hours on end. So like just kind of being there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really doing much other than just kind of hanging out until she was finished with work. And, I've tried at that point in time, I tried soccer, I tried gymnastics, I tried a couple of sports, t-ball. I wasn't great at either of them. Gymnastics, I could barely cartwheel. Soccer, we're not going to talk about that. So like I had tried other sports and nothing really clicked. And then one day I was in my after school program with one of my friends at the time, and I saw that they offered karate classes. And I was like, "Mom, I'm literally like," I was telling her that I was there anyways. And I asked if I could try it. It was like twice a week, I think, for like 30-minute classes. So it was something like super small scale, nothing crazy. But
Right.
she decided to put me in and just keep me busy and keep me active while I was hanging out, waiting for her to finish work. And I loved it. It just was something that I fell in love with so quickly and became passionate about. And so, I stayed with that school, that little after school program for a while, started competing with them. And then eventually I switched schools and I switched schools again. But that's kind of the origin story. It was just an after school thing I wanted to do with one of my best friends at the time and ended up really liking it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I find it very hard to believe that you say that you weren't really good at other sports and like gymnastics of all things. Like, if anybody watches you perform, right, that's obviously part of what you do. So tell me a little bit more about what made you started at one school, you switched schools. What were you searching for, or better yet, what maybe your mom, since she was probably helping make those
Yeah.
decisions at that time, what were you looking for that made you switch schools?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because of what I'm best at now. When I first started, it was mainly like a form school. There wasn't a lot of fighting and it wasn't very competition oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of quickly became the best in kind of my group and
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was stuck a little bit. I was there probably for about a year and a half or 2 years. And it was just like I wanted more. when I was still a part of that karate school, I went to the US Open, and realized there was so much more to the sport than what I had been like privy to. So
Hmm.
I find a school that was more sparring oriented. Like I didn't get enough of that. So then I switched to a primarily fighting school where I got really good at sparring, continuous fighting, all of that. I still did my forms. I got the nickname Bulletproof at that school. Really kind of started branching out, did a lot more of our local circuits. Didn't really travel too much like I do now. And then
Hmm.
from there, I was like, all right, this is great, lots of fighting. But I realized that forms is really where my passions lied. And
Hmm.
at the time, I really looked up to Mark Canonizato and um, a couple of just the instructors that I had at my school now back
Hmm.
then. So I switched over to Florida Sports Martial Arts under William Canonizato, and that's where I've been ever since. But yeah, it was just the second school I was at was all fighting, and I'm like, all right, I need a little bit of both. I need like a good equal amount, and so that's where I found in my third school and where I really kind of took off.
Hmm. Yeah, the balance of the two, right? And I always appreciate competitors that really focus on both skills
Right.
because and it's funny because in the tournaments, at least it used to be where like all the fighters would hang out and be
Right.
separate from all the forms competitors, and
Exactly.
there was kind of like this inner rivalry. It's still
Mhm.
competitive and fun, but there's always that distinction, right?
Exactly.
But I think that as many people will say, it's always best to be a martial artist and not just a partial artist, and practice
Exactly.
the both, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
before
for sure.
before we go on more about martial arts and competition and in the schools that you trained at, um, you brought up the fact that you grew up with a single mom. What was that like for you, and how did that impact you and your outlook on your goals and your life? And I'm not sure, was there a father figure there for you, or was it really just mom?
So for like about the first 15 years of my life or so, it was just mom. I actually lived with my grandparents for a while, so I did have them. But we struggled quite a bit. It was hard. I mean, you know, it was hard on her end and it was hard on my end, just having to kind of, for example, stay at the after school program for all those hours and not being able to go out and do certain things because she was working or stuff like that. So it definitely wasn't easy, especially financially too. So tough decisions had to be made, especially as I got a little bit older and started wanting to travel to compete.
Hmm.
As we all know, it's not cheap, especially if you don't have a sponsor, you don't have help. So a lot of sacrifices on both of our ends had to be made. um, I had to kind of give up some smaller things that I think a lot of kids my age wanted to do and were able to do often. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but you, not going out to the movies with my friends or not spending money to go on a vacation, but rather to go to compete. Like these are
Hmm.
all things I had to do, and it was stuff I was okay with doing because, like I mentioned, I fell in love with the sport so quick, and just getting to compete and travel doing what I love was way worth, making those little sacrifices. But yeah, it was tough because there were certain times where I didn't want to go out and compete at a certain tournament, but it was too expensive, or my mom couldn't take time off of work. So being raised in a single mom household was a little bit tough, but at the same token, I'm thankful for it because she did a lot for me and it allowed us to just get super close. So
Hmm.
she's my best friend and my mom and my sister all in one. Um,
Nice.
but as I got older, my mom met my stepdad, Hakeem Walker, and he quickly became a father figure in my life, someone that has guided me through just growing up, being a teenager has helped me make some great decisions and given me like different perspectives on martial arts and on life, and was my sparring coach. So like it took a while, but once I got him in my life, it was great and smooth sailing. So I have him. He's like my dad, pretty much.
Great, great. Well, I love that. And you talked about being a teenager, and you're still a teenager, right? But you came up in competition years, in some of the hardest, toughest years for a lot of kids growing up, because you talked about sacrifice, not going out to the movies. In the beginning, it may have been more of a financial decision, but now it's kind of more like you got to really focus on your competition and doing what you do because you're sponsored and you're on a team. And so what what part of martial arts, you said you fell in love with martial arts. What part of martial arts did you fall in love with first? Was it the competition or was it something else?
So in the beginning, I think it was just the community. I think athletes can say this about their sport, whether you do martial arts, you play football, you do basketball, etc. But the community that I kind of grew up in the sport around, there was nothing like it. Like
Hmm.
the support that I've had and the friendships that I've built were just unreal. And I think that was the initial like gravitation towards it because I just enjoyed spending time with everybody. And my sensei in the beginning she was awesome. And so it was just really fun for me. And I thought the idea of testing and getting a new belt and breaking boards and sparring and getting new gear and being excited to be a blue belt because blue is my favorite color. Different things like that were why I wanted to do it. And as I started getting introduced into the competition scene, I thought it was so fun. I remember telling my mom at my first martial arts competition, she recorded my form, and I'm like, "Are you going to post it to YouTube? I want everybody to see it." And it was just, I loved performing. It was something that kind of was so natural for me. And then 2011 US Open's really what did it, where I got to see the night show for the first time. I hadn't been to any other NASKA tournament. It was my first one. Seeing number one, how big the competition was, and number two, getting to see all like the top competitors at the time compete in the nighttime finals. I
Hmm.
remember thinking like, okay, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to work towards it. And that's kind of what really set me on track to do what it is I've done.
Hmm. Yeah, you mentioned something that I think a lot of students, kids and adults, fall in love with martial arts because of the community that they're surrounded by.
Right.
They make lifelong friends, people that you go through a lot of things. I mean, what other sport can you really punch each other in the face too, and then hug afterwards and
Yeah.
be good, right? Um, and there's just something very unique about the relationships that we build and the community that comes together within our school. But also, you see that as a competitor and as a part of team martial arts, where now you have this inner, smaller, tighter team where you're traveling together, you're competing together, you're supporting each other. I think that that's one of the biggest things that keeps kids training in martial arts is the community, right? They don't want to leave their friends, or they
Right.
get sad when their friends. It's also the reason why some students quit. All my friends quit, so I'm not doing it anymore,
Oh,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Right. So I definitely I love that about martial arts. Now, as far as competition goes, when did you decide in your head that like I want to be a world champion? When did you really make a commitment to really make a run for it?
So, that same tournament, 2011 US Open, it was my first time at US Open. I was a green belt at the time, and I actually ended up winning the 17 and under, I think, Forums Underbelt Grand Championship. And so the excitement that came with winning like a grand championship at a big old tournament
Hmm.
and just kind of getting to see that trophy and realizing compared to what I've done now is a small accomplishment, but that kind of really jump started like the excitement that came with working really hard and then having your everything you've worked for kind of show through in the results, right?
Hmm.
So I got to do that. I got to win like a grand championship, and I was like, I really like this feeling. This is really cool because I know
Hmm.
I trained really hard for it, and I put in the work, and I came and I did really well, um, and then I actually got to present my award at the nighttime finals on stage. So like I didn't get to compete, but I got to go up there in my uniform. I had like a black and yellow uniform, my green belt. I was super tiny, and I presented my award to Jackson Rudolph for whatever division in his weapons division.
Hmm.
Being up there under those lights and kind of seeing everybody, even though it wasn't me competing, I was like, this feeling, I'm gonna chase it. And so it kind of really gave me the motivation to work towards being on stage at that US Open. And then as I continued on, I realized there's a lot of other things to work towards as well. But that's really what flipped the switch. And I
Hmm.
started to really think, all right, I'm gonna get really good at this.
Well, the energy and the feeling of competition itself, just being on stage and just performing, right, is one thing, and that's almost kind of an addictive thing where you feel that rushing through your
Right.
veins, right, and then to win, that's even more exciting. That's icing on the cake, and it's like wow, right. But then let's talk about the harder parts. Let's talk about some of the hard losses What have you learned, or what are some examples of some of the hard losses that you've had to go through?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was tough. Um, when I first started in NASKA, I was I kind of started winning my divisions really quickly, and I just
Hmm.
think that's just how it was. Like it didn't take me too long to start getting on top of my divisions and going to runoffs. And so like that was fine, and I started to make my way into winning runoffs and getting to stage. At that time, boys and girls weren't separated,
Hmm.
so I'd go on stage a lot and be like the only girl up there, and then lose to the boys, just because they were doing more than I was, or they were better, stronger at the time. And so it was like loss after loss after loss. And I was like, I just want to win one of these. Like, I just want to beat these boys. Like, that was my primary goal when I was small. Um, and like, that was my driving force. And it sucked to lose because I'm just like, I feel like I've trained so hard and I really
Hmm.
tried my best. And like, it just didn't happen for me. And it was like that for a couple of years. But it just, for me, it was never discouraging. Maybe in the moment, I was like, dang, I really wish I could have won that one.
Hmm.
Then I'm
Hmm.
like, all right, I gotta go back. I gotta get better. I gotta learn another trick. I gotta get better at my forms, get cleaner. And so I used it as motivation. And I feel like people take losses two ways. You either use it as fuel for accomplishing, you know, whatever it is you're trying to do, or like, dang, maybe this isn't for me. But it was never like that. Like, I always was frustrated for a second. Then I got back and I'm like, all right, next one, you're gonna do it. You gotta try a little bit harder. And I finally, like made my breakthrough in those divisions against the boys, and it was really exciting. And every now and again, I obviously we always, you win some and you lose some,
Right.
whatever it is. But I try my best to like flip the switch and not necessarily think of it as a bad thing, but think, all right, you can do it. You just have to kind of readjust. You gotta
That's right.
tweak something out.
Yeah, I don't think that any of us that are highly competitive or have achieved any level of success really like to lose. I don't think that, especially martial artists, I don't think that we like to lose, but I think the growth mindset and that winner's mindset of, well, if I lose, I'm just going to take that as fuel. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to smash it next time.
Yeah.
We try to say that we never really lose. We just learn, right? And we
Right.
learn how we can move forward. So I want to give a shout out, Mr. Jones, Mr. Walker. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you. And a mention of Jackson Rudolph came up there, and I know you mentioned him earlier. Just a little shout out, Jackson. If you want to come on the show, I would love you to be on the show as well. I'll reach out again to you. But yeah, it's just interesting how we go through these wins and losses, and at the end of the day, we keep moving forward, and
Yeah.
we keep striving towards that next goal, and we keep striving towards that next level, right?
Right.
What do you think are some of the things that have helped really catapult you to the next level each time, whether you won or lost? What do you think are your best attributes for winning?
It's a good. I think that's a good, really good question. Of course, like we have just mentioned, losing is not fun in the moment, but it is fuel and it helps us, push to the next level. But I think it's having the little breaks in between the losses, or like the unexpected opportunities arise.
Mm,
That's really, like, it shocks me in the moment, and I'm like, because of my hard work, I've gotten this opportunity. Now let me keep on working hard to get more opportunities. Like, what else can I accomplish through
hmm.
just my hard work and what I do? Um, so that's one. Like, for example, when I was 13 and I got the opportunity to do stunts in the film Logan, like that was completely out of left field. I was like, I didn't audition for it. I had no idea it was going on. And then all of a sudden one day my mom gets like a message from one of the, like, I think, producers, and
Hmm.
everything gets set up and I go, and it's like one of the best experiences of my life. And it's, like I said, a lot of these big things I've done hasn't been me searching for it. They found me because of what I do and the hard work I've put in. Same
Hmm.
thing for America's Got Talent. Um, Again, a producer emailed my mom and was like, "Hey, I think you should have your daughter try out for America's Got Talent." So it wasn't me going to do it. It kind of fell in my lap. And so these little things really just keep on pushing me, because they're blessings, they're opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten had I not worked hard.
Hmm.
And so there's that side of it. And there's also now more so having a student base and having like support for my students and seeing them grow. It really pushes me to be a good example to them and like a
Hmm.
testament to what you can do if you continue to go down this route and you pursue the things you want to and you work hard. Like showing them a good example of what they could do
Right.
uh, is definitely what drives me right now, at least.
Well, I love that. I love all of that. And by the way, we've got several people watching live. I'd love to hear your questions. If you're watching live and you'd like to ask Haley or myself anything, please post comments. If you have a memory or a thought about Haley, please put that in the comments as well. We want to hear from you guys out there. You brought up something really important, is that your hard work and your effort, your work ethic, your dedication, your commitment to martial arts and competition has helped open the doors and provide opportunities. You may not have been looking for it, but right place, right time, meet the right person, the right connection, whatever it might be. Was Logan your first experience working in the movie industry?
Yeah, it was.
Yes. So
So
was that like a culture shock? Like everything
oh
was like,
yeah,
whoa.
it was because I was 13, and like I had known that there were people in like the martial arts world who do stunts and who've
Hmm.
gone to do movies and film, but I had never really put much thought into like what the making of a film must look like,
Hmm.
um, or like let alone how that all works and working for a company like 20th Century Fox. And like it's not something I thought about. I just went to school and I did karate and I did homework and I went to sleep. And then that was
Hmm.
kind of it. That was my everyday. And then I went to go compete every now and again.
Right.
But getting to go and just see how much goes into it and all the amazing things that go on behind the scenes that you don't really know about, because when you watch a film you just watch the actors,
Right.
but all like the production and how they use green screens and just all the camera work and the angles and the amount of takes that one scene like you might have to do, and the people you get to meet, like the experience is just unreal. Definitely something I want to experience again, but it was not something I thought I would like as much as I did until I got
Mm.
there and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Now, I have to assume that at 13 years old, you did the stunts for Logan's daughter
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah.
film. Is that right? It
It's supposed to be Jackson. Oh yeah.
what was there any uh, was there anything specific about the particular stunts that you did that was challenging, or did you just feel kind of right at home doing what you were doing?
Right. So for what I did, it was all in my field. Like everything I did was pretty something I was confident in doing.
Hmm.
It wasn't a huge like big stunt double role,
Right.
um, especially at 13. Like it wasn't anything like that. But I did get to watch some of like the rehearsals, and just thinking about it, I'm just like, this is crazy. Like I don't know how people are capable of doing these moves and these falls and stuff. But I think as I move forward and hopefully pursue the industry, I think there will be those moments where I'm gonna get approached with a task and be like, I have no idea how I'm gonna make this happen, but I will. But for what I did, I was pretty comfortable with it. Like I said, the group of us who did it were young, so I don't think they wanted us to do anything too crazy.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, I got a couple people that I know you know. So here's a comment from Alex. It says, "Proud is an understatement. Haley Glass, can't wait to continue seeing you accomplish anything and everything. Big hearts." And then one of your teammates, San Diaz, "You're such a powerhouse. Super proud of you. Keep leading with love and following your dreams." Thanks, Sam. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Sam.
I think I'm going to have both these guys coming up pretty soon. So
That-
that's exciting. So let's talk about America's Got Talent. So that opportunity kind of fell into your lap, and what what was the performance like that you were putting out there? And you said you got to the top 50. Was that right?
yeah, around the top 50 out of
Pretty big.
probably 20,000 contestants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely a big deal, especially that one. I was even younger. I was 11 years old.
Oh
I didn't
wow.
really think I understood the magnitude of it at the moment. I just kind of went into my thing, but now thinking about it, it blows my mind that that's something that I had the privilege of doing. Um, but yeah, that process was interesting. And I think if I were to have done it now, I would have been so much more nervous because, like I said, I understand how big of a deal it is.
Uh-huh.
But it was like they had a kind of preliminary round almost, which is not in front of the celebrities. So sorry to anyone who's watching and didn't know that. But the first round that we do is just in front of some producers. And then if we make it through that, we go to the celebrity auditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so going up there, getting to meet like Mel B, Howard Stern, Howie Mandel, all those guys. It's kind of crazy. It was like so
Yeah.
small on a huge stage, and
Right.
getting like interviewed and whatnot was insane. I remember going and doing, I think, my comma form the
Okay.
first time around. And they liked it. Everybody said yes. I went on to the second round. And then this is when they started doing the celebrity judges rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I had Marlon Wayne as my celebrity judge, which was pretty cool. He loved it. They all did. But I actually broke my ankle a couple
Oh,
of weeks before I went on for my second like round, and it was
uh-huh.
doing something stupid. I was jumping over, I think, a little like big block thing at a gymnastics school, and I
Mm-hmm.
broke my ankle. And so like we had this big old thing planned, but then I had to tweak it a little bit. I ended up going out, making a sword form, and going out and doing sword. And unfortunately, I didn't make it quite to the live rounds, but it was a great experience. Something that is not many people get to do, and
Yeah.
so having been on that is quite amazing, I think.
Well, I think it's so cool. I remember when Matt Mullins Sideswipe,
Yeah,
when they went out,
right.
I was so excited to see martial arts be featured in America's Got Talent and in shows like that. And then Steve Tirada and his
Mhm.
dance team started getting into the dance shows, and I'm just like, and when you know people that are doing this stuff,
Right.
you can't help but be proud of them,
For
but
sure.
also be proud of martial arts and be proud
Yeah,
of what we're displaying on a grand scale for people to see. And I mean, I can only imagine the feedback that you got from the judges watching you, like any other time you perform. It's just like mouth open, like,
no, it
whoa, that's
was. It's
super cool, right?
Yeah, it's always like, oh my gosh, you look so sweet. And then when I go out and like compete and like
Yeah.
kind of turn on that whole intense character,
Uh-huh.
everybody's like,
Right.
"Oh, do you want to
Big
lose?"
eyes.
And then I start smiling after. They're like, "How are you the same person?" That's the goal, though. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's with our sport, it's still not really mainstream. At least certain parts of it aren't. And so getting these little breaks of, I call it, whenever I kind of refer to it, I call it going pro, because it's like that next level. We don't really have a lot of this in like college sports or like the
Hmm.
NFL. Like nothing that big is for sport karate, but we have these opportunities like America's Got Talent, like doing stunts in film or World of Dance, or incorporating stuff in the backgrounds of like music videos, or for
Hmm.
me going out on a cruise ship and doing what it is I do. So these are like our little big breaks, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and every time I kind of see someone else do something similar, it definitely, I get the same feeling. I'm just like proud of our sport and that we're making progress towards really showing the world what it is we do.
Yep. Well, before we go on, I want to this. I believe this is your mom, right?
There's my mama.
Mama's watching. Mama, you raised a good
Hi.
girl. She's doing great. Thank you for watching. Would love to hear any stories that mom has. I don't
Oh.
know. Do we want to hear stories? But again, the sport karate, the sport version of karate and martial arts has really evolved and really, in the last several decades, just
Right.
changed tremendously. And I absolutely I love seeing it. I love seeing the growth. I'm a very traditional martial artist, but I love the UFC. But I also love going to tournaments and watching the sport karate. And as our martial arts school is a Raptor Extreme Karate School. So with Kevin
Yeah,
and his program, it's just so amazing to give the kids an opportunity to expand in martial arts and
right.
kind of dip into other areas. I mean, because not everybody wants to do traditional martial arts. Not everybody's going to want to be a fighter. Not everybody is focused on, reality based self defense, because these are all different things. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is huge right now, right?
Yeah,
But I think that sport karate has its piece, has its place, and give kids and students an opportunity to really grow. If you
right.
look at, my son played baseball, travel baseball from the time he was 5. He's also a martial artist, but he had that experience of traveling and going
Yeah.
to tournaments and going, to the different seminars. And,
Mm.
he got to meet Justin Turner, the Dodgers, and,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's like, you talk about opportunities and you talk about experiences. And I think that that's what life is all about, right?
Right.
Experiencing it and
Mhm.
enjoying it. Right. So now you're also, before I get into talking about the cruise ship, because I know that's what you've been doing most recently,
Yeah.
you talked about getting involved teaching and having students now. So you made the transition from being a student to
Right.
becoming I'm sure a leader within your school and then becoming an instructor,
Yeah.
right? So tell me about that transition for you. Was that a natural transition? Was that something that was kind of thrust upon you? Was it something that you were looking for?
It started off little by little. It
Mhm.
wasn't like one day I was a student and the next day I'm out here teaching, right?
Mhm.
But there's I think we all know this. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're good at teaching that thing. It's
That's
a
right.
big difference, right? So um I always wanted to make sure that I was teaching in a good way almost. And so I actually like sought out mentorship on how to teach and how to instruct. And as I was smaller, like I was in school, I didn't have as much control over the things that I did because I was a kid. I still
Mhm.
am, but like, a little bit younger. But now more so I think I have a better understanding of what it takes to be an instructor and how to teach my students and how to motivate and mentor the kids that I have. And so, as I've learned how to do this more, it's been really exciting to see my students grow. And so, I never really went out looking for them. I mean, I had kids kind of come to me and just stick with them for a couple of years and kind of see them grow and do their own thing. But it's been a transition that I didn't think I'd like as much as I do.
Hmm.
Like sometimes you're a student and you have some kids who are like, "Yeah, I'd love to teach," and then you'd have other even competitors who are like, "It's not my thing," but that's okay. So I was always kind of like, "Yeah, I'll do it," but I don't like. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it and have as much like gratification from seeing my kids
Mhm.
succeed as I do. And so now that I've kind of gotten a taste of it, I just really do my best to be there for my students and show them kind of the little tips and tricks that I learned later on as soon as possible so that they can be better than myself, ideally.
Mhm. Well, that's the goal, right? For every instructor, and as a parent, we want our children to have better opportunities than we had. We
Yeah.
want our students to outgrow our skill level, and that's definitely the goal. Now, let me ask you a really tough question, and we'll see where we go with this. But what is more important to you, your success as a competitor, or watching your students succeed?
Okay. Um, so if we're talking about competition
Yeah.
at this stage in time, um, it brings me more joy to see my students succeed and win their divisions and accomplish the things that they're trying to do, big scale or small scale, like it doesn't matter. That right now is definitely a lot more exciting for me
Mhm.
um, than going out and competing myself at this point in time. Now, doing the other things, it's really exciting for me to get the other opportunities outside of competition, of course. But
Mhm.
right now, I would say that for me, it's starting. The roles are kind of switching now. I love competing. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's great. I love training. I love kind of the idea of working and then allowing it to kind of show on a stage or in my ring. But recently, just getting the little taste of my students winning something or getting to throw a new move in their form and like nailing it in a competition, like that's been what's most fun about going to these events and competitions.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Well, to me, that's a sign of a maturity in an instructor, because when we're younger, or when we're just starting out, especially when all we're focused on is us, it feels great to win, and we
yeah,
really focus on our success. But when you start to teach others and you start to see their level of success, it's kind of a boost for you as a coach as
yeah,
well, right?
it is.
Because like you said, when your students are succeeding, well, now you got to lead by example, and you got to keep
Right.
working the game, and you got to keep, walking the walk, right? And
Exactly.
so
Exactly it. Yeah.
I think that's really important. I mean, everybody loves to win, and everybody loves that excitement of having the spotlight. But if you've been there long enough, usually if you've been there long enough in the spotlight, it's kind of nice to shine that light on somebody else. And like you said when I introduced you today, kind of bringing up the next generation of martial artists,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's super exciting. Okay, so let's talk about this opportunity that you got to be on a cruise ship and go and perform. How are you still there?
No, I'm back for
You're
now.
back.
I will probably do another contract here in a couple of months, but for now I'm back.
Now, how long was this? How long was this contract, or how long were you there performing, and what did that entail?
So this first contract was 3.5 months. So the first 2 weeks were more rehearsal. So this was off the ship. I got like a scuba certified because that's part of something I had to do working in an aqua theater. And then I learned the entire show that I led in about 3 days. So very fast paced. It's a 15-minute show, and I learned it in 3 days, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
And then I had to perform it in front of basically the Royal Caribbean executive team at their headquarters. So that was nerve wracking. I mean, I've performed in front of quite a bit of people, but performing in front of 10 big execs in the company, that
Mm-hmm.
was like very nerve wracking because I kind of came in a little bit after the main cast had came in. So I was rehearsing, I was doing my scuba certification, all that by myself because I came in a little bit late. So I was the only one performing. It was very nerve wracking because it was a long time coming. I was actually supposed to do the first contract for the ship um, when it sailed in March of 22. And so about a year and a half ago, I was supposed to go out and actually do a year contract. COVID got bad. I had scholarships on the line, and like stuff with cruise ships were like going under investigation
Mm-hmm.
because of COVID and everything. So it was that timing was just not right for me because I didn't want to let go of all the scholarships I had at UF for something that may not, we may not see it through just because of what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's different. So I finally got to do it. So everybody had been wanting me on board for a long time now because I was supposed to do it about a year and a half ago. So they were all like, the eagle has landed. Like, she's here. She's going to do it. So the expectations were all up here. And I'm like,
Right.
I can't let these people down. But it was a great performance. Everybody loved it. So then later I went on that week. I went on the ship and started out the first week was we call it the installation process because we practice in a big old room,
Mm-hmm.
but none of the water elements or the lifting elements are obviously there. So I get on board. I learn how to flip in water and how to not drop my weapon in water and do all these things and have chlorine in my eyes because I have jets splashing up on me and costumes and all of that. So I learned that for about a week and then started performing the show. And so my weeks kind of looked like 7 show weeks. I did alternate with another martial artist here and there. It depended on the week, but we'd go have 3 double show nights. So 2 shows in one night, 3 days a week, and then one day of the week we only had one show. Granted that the weather permitted, because that was also something that I didn't really think about. But being on a ship in the middle of the ocean, sometimes rockiness is
Right.
too much, or wind is too heavy, or if there's lightning, we can't do a water show outside because that's dangerous. So all that kind of played into effect, and it was really cool because for the first time I had been able to do what it is I do as a martial artist and create this production with a lot of other talents. So we had slackliners, we had high divers, we had just like 10-meter divers, we had synchronized swimmers that have been in the Olympics, we had dancers. So we had so many types of talents all come together to make one show. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever because it's taking my talent and my sport and intertwining it with a bunch of other sports.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so crazy to be a part of something as big as that, and then having it be an all-female cast, that's special in itself. I did get to go on, and because, like I said, the cast was already there, I got to go and watch the show my first week as an audience member. So, like, I wasn't performing in it; I just got to watch it, and I remember I teared up so much just watching it and knowing that I've made it to a point to where I get to be in something as big as this,
Hmm.
that kind of gives people the feeling that it gives me, and I know the show. Um, it's it's so hard to explain because it's one of those things where it's like I guess it's hard to understand until you've seen it or you've been there. But getting to perform in front of thousands of people every cruise and having it be different people every week,
Hmm.
it's crazy because at the same time, when we go to competitions, most people know what they're looking at. They've seen karate before. They're like, all right, like I know what to expect. But all these audience members had no clue what was going to happen.
Right.
So getting to see like the look in their faces when, we opened up the show, or just the excitement of whatever it is we were doing in that scene was definitely such a great feeling because it was like a first impression. And it's
Hmm.
how excited that, their mouths be like, the whole time
Right.
I'm going and doing my thing, and we got divers in the back, and the water splashing, like, and the standing ovations at the end of people who were just amazed by what it is this 20 group of 20 women could do
Hmm.
was, I think, something super special, and so it was a great experience.
Well, that's amazing. What an amazing experience that maybe you never thought
Yeah,
would ever come up, right? I
yeah,
mean, as a martial artist competing on the circuit, here you are now on one of the largest cruise ships doing a big show. Now, I have to ask, when it comes to being a black belt,
mhm,
being an instructor, being a coach, being on a highly competitive team,
yeah,
being a high level competitor, being someone that performs on one of the largest cruise ships. How do you deal with the pressure? Because there's got to be a lot of pressure,
yeah,
the pressure to perform, the pressure to be on, the pressure to be, all the things that you need to be. I mean, you're still 19 years old. You're still
yeah,
going through school. You're still learning about life and all the things, right?
yeah.
How do you deal with that pressure?
Honestly, I think that's the hardest part about what it is I do and all the things that I do kind of at one time, it feels like. Um, I've built up a reputation for myself, I think, over the last couple of years in the sport and just as a person and as an instructor and all these things. And so I think I put more pressure on myself than other people do around me. So it's like I make it harder on myself because I hold my standards up here, and if I don't meet it, then I'm frustrated because I'm like, "Dang, you said you were gonna do all these things today, and you didn't get one of these things done, or you
Hmm.
kind of fell short on this." Um, and so it's hard because finding the balance is not easy sometimes, especially with so many things changing.
Yeah.
So like being at school, I went in all throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school as a straight A student, and then I got to college and was still competing and teaching and working out and traveling and doing all of these things. And so I still have like really good grades, but they're not the straight A's that I was like hoping to get. And then I'm like, man, if I just focused all my time on college, I would be so great. But it's balancing everything and understanding that I am human, um, and I'm gonna mess up, or sometimes I can't do all the things I hope to do. Learning that has been really tough because, like I said, I'm put so much pressure on myself to be good at everything, and
Hmm.
so it's hard. But I also have, I think, pressure from other people. Like now, I'm going in back into the competition scene after having not really competed in about 6 months, and for me, that's a long time. Like I'm used to competing at least like once a month ish.
Hmm.
It's like coming back after 6 months, and I have like the mindset of, all right, you have to go back and be better than what you were when you competed last. Like you can't come back and do a little bit worse because then it's not going to look good on you. Like it's like small things like that. I think it's all up here, and I do it to myself,
Hmm.
but I definitely put a lot of extra unnecessary pressure. But at the same time, I think that's what pushes me so hard because I'm always trying to be better. I'm always trying to
Hmm.
be at the top of everything that I do. And so on like my days where I'm feeling like I'm not meeting that standard for myself, it just pushes me that much harder to try my best to get better. And so I think that's part of the reason why I've done everything I do. It's
Hmm.
just being hard on myself, but not too hard, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I understand it. The great thing to remember too is that you have a supportive family.
Yeah.
You have a supportive student base. You have a supportive team, and you got people looking out for you, right? And sometimes we forget that when we have all these pressures and all these things that we expect of ourselves, that you have all these people right there behind you. And I had an interview with someone on Monday, Gordon Melville, and one of the things that he really talked about that made me think and remind myself when I'm feeling the pressures of not being good enough or not doing enough. Number one, he said, you are enough. We're always enough.
Right.
That's number one. And number two, focus on being more than focus on doing, being who you are and being unapologetic for who you are and what you do, because you're doing a lot and you're doing a great job while you're at it. Right. And you have so much more ahead of you. You're at 19 years old. You have like the whole world is in front of you. You still have graduating college, getting married, having kids, doing all the things, right? You have so much more, and you've accomplished so much in your short life so far. So congratulations on all of that. That's super amazing. And I've loved hearing your story. I want to ask one more thing, which we didn't talk about, joining Team Paul Mitchell.
Yeah.
Because you started, for every competitor, I think, for every competitor out there, that's the mark, right? If you're going out to be on a team, that's the team, right? As long as and I've I've been around sport karate for a while, and Team Paul Mitchell has always been the pinnacle for most people. And so it was obviously a goal of yours at one point. And what was it like joining the team, or how hard did you how hard did you have to work to get on the team? Was there any kind of like, hey, if you win the next 2 or 3, like we're going to take you on the team or something like that?
So it was a long time coming. And I actually at one point was almost like, well, if it hasn't happened yet, it's not going to happen. I would say I had made that goal for about 10 years. I was doing the circuit. I started the circuit. Like I had made that goal in around 2011, I think. Like I said, when I saw the US Open, I saw the night show, I saw Team Paul Mitchell taking all the doves. I was like, all right, that's cool. My instructor was on the team, like someone I looked up for so long, Mark Canizzato. Like he represented Team Paul Mitchell, and I wanted to do the same thing. And I worked really hard. It's getting on Team Paul Mitchell is not one of those things where it's like, all right, if you do this, this, and this, and this, then you'll get on the team. There's so much that goes into it, not just your abilities and what you do on the mat, but it's also about who you are off the mats and how you carry yourself and what else you value. That also plays a factor in it. And so I was competing for a while, many years, I think like I said, almost 10 years. And I was like, hey, I've won almost all the things there is to win. I've done all these things and it's still not happening. And so I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that wasn't discouraging at one point in time. I had my moments where I'm just like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. Like, maybe this just isn't going to happen, and that's okay. I just have to accept it. But I kind of get in those little, like, kind of phases, and then I'd be like, all right, no, let's flip the switch again. Work harder. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not perfect, so we can always be better. So I'm just like, I reminded myself to become a better version of myself every day. I always get that 1% better, I'd like to say. And, post-COVID, we had that break of time where I was like really working hard, trying to get better, trying to improve in all the areas I could. And I came out and I started the adult division in 2021, halfway through, because we didn't start until about June with the circuit.
Mm-hmm.
I came in after COVID, all the hard work paid off. I did really well at that tournament, first year in adults, and then US Open again. I took 2 ISKA championships and won pretty much everything there was to win for my age bracket. And then a couple of days after that US Open, I got the call, we like to say. They're like, it was a long time coming. Sorry it took so long, but do you want to be on the team? And I was like, of course. Like, it was something I was working towards for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like a big break. It took me years. But I always kind of had that goal in mind, and I never lost sight of it. And eventually I finally did it. So it was a good.
That's great. That's great.
A great accomplishment, knowing how much work I put in for it.
Well, and a huge testament, again, to your students, 10 years of competing before getting picked up by a team.
Yeah.
10 years is a long time. A lot can happen in 10 years, and very easily you could have said, maybe it's not for me, right? Or maybe just kind of moved on, or whatever else, right? But you persevered,
Right.
as a true martial artist should and would, right? Persevered, kept on going, and the payoff is great. And now here you are, as Jeannie's saying right here, representing the black and white well. So let me ask you this this last question really is, what's next?
That's a fantastic question. There's a lot that's changing, I think, right now in this kind of next couple of years. This is my last year at UF. So I'm graduating, I'm getting my bachelor's, and it's kind of like, all right, what do I do now? Do I go to grad school? Do I go and try to pursue this? Do I do another contract on with Royal Caribbean? And right now, that's kind of looking pretty promising. I'm not exactly sure time frame just yet, but I do think I will go back and perform again on Wonder of the Seas. They've got a couple other ships coming out and different shows that they do have with martial artists. So kind of exploring opportunities with that, because I didn't realize how much I'd like it until I tried it. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. Who would have thought martial arts on a cruise ship? But it's a great experience, get to travel, do all those things. I really, my main goal and what I want to pursue when I graduate is going out and trying to make it in the stunt industry, and really dedicating my time to that and seeing where that goes. Like I mentioned, doing Logan was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And ever since then, I'm like, all right, this is what I want to do. And I have plenty of my coaches and people and mentors and people I've looked up to who are currently making it out in that industry. And so I kind of want to follow in their footsteps and see what it holds for me. Um, but yeah, I honestly, I think the best answer for you is I don't know, but I'm excited. And I think that's okay that I'm not 100% sure. But for now, I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing, finish out my school year, get back into competitions, do another contract, and see where life takes me.
Well, I think you've got a very bright future ahead of you, and I think that you're going to continue to do well, especially with the attitude and the mindset that you have, from where you've started and where you've come from to where you are now. I can't wait to see what you do next, and I just want to thank you for being on the show today. And if anybody else is still watching, which I think you are, do me a favor and share this video and let everybody else hear about Haley's amazing story and experiences. But for now, that's all for Master Motivation, and we'll be back again next time. So, Haley, thank you so much again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.